You all went on the virtual background, so this is Argentina. If somebody is wondering what that is.
It's
You
just
can
Tel
choose.
Aviv. Somebody wondering what is this? An office in Tel Aviv.
I can. Okay, so as we are in Germany, we will begin on time. So hi everybody, welcome to our session, Overcome the Challenges of Remote Work. My name is Ofira Engelberg and I'm heading Marketing and Business Development at the Israeli Trade Center in Berlin. This session today is a joint initiative of the Israel Economic and Trade Mission in Berlin and in Munich and the Israeli Export Institute. We usually bring people together face to face as we believe this is the best way to enable business, but we find these unusual times as an opportunity to open new ways to communicate and create business relations. On behalf of the Foreign Trade Administration of the Ministry of Economy and Industry in Israel and the Israeli embassies and consulates, I would like to welcome you and thank you for joining us for this session. And special warm regards to the Italian experts on board, and thank you, Jonathan Hadar and his team in Milan. We are together with you in spirit as you struggle with the pandemic and hope that a sense of normalcy will return soon to your beautiful country. Our session today will begin with an introduction by Mr. Chagai Meizahav, Head of International Cooperation at the Israel National Cyber Directorate. Chagai will address how Israel is tackling the challenges of remote work as a country. Afterwards, we will have a short presentation by 5 cybersecurity companies, each one a leader in its domain. We will end with a quick round of Q&As. A few housekeeping comments. You are all muted. If you would like to raise questions, please use the Q&A window on your screen and I will address the questions. Each company will present for 5 minutes, leaving time for questions between the sessions. This webinar is recorded and we will share the recording with you via email. I hope you will find this session informative and interesting, and thank you for taking the time to join. And now, without further ado, I would like to hand over the microphone to Chagai Meizahav, Head of International Cooperation at the Israel National Cyber Directorate. Chagai, take it from here.
Thank you, Ofira. Good morning to everybody. I'm starting with sharing. Can you see the slides I was just sharing now?
Now we can.
Now you can. Perfect. Okay. So good morning, everybody. My name is Chagai Meizahav. Thank you for having me today, Doron, Ofira, all the organizers. I'm heading the international cooperation of the Israeli National Cyber Directorate with European countries such as Germany and the Asia Pacific region. And I would like to take the next few minutes and to elaborate on the way INCD, as a governmental organization, is integrating in the national effort to combat COVID-19 pandemic. Let's go. Yes. So I'll give you a quick introduction of INCD, and then what is the situation in Israel today. We'll count the main challenges that the pandemic is posing on us and discuss what are the roles and actions that the national agency is due to take in this time of a pandemic. So really in a nutshell about our organization. So Israel National Cyber Directorate is a one-stop shop for everything, all the aspects of cybersecurity in the national level. From assuring the security of the Israeli critical infrastructure, the government, essential services, all the way to the man in the street, awareness and so on, framing policies, and all the way to looking into the future, seeing what are the technological challenges that are coming and being prepared to face them. This is like, in less than a minute, who we are. But before we start, I want to give you a quick glimpse about what is the situation in Israel. Well, I mean, I made this slide yesterday, but I can give you already the situation of this morning. So in Israel, the borders today are almost completely closed. I mean, only Israelis coming back from abroad. I think there is a decrease of 98% in the traffic. Israel, you know, it's an island, so the main entrance to Israel is through air traffic, and many goods are coming today into Israel. The population in Israel is almost completely quarantined today. I think that our restrictions are even more restricted than in Italy. We can go out of the houses only in the perimeter of the 100 meters around the house. So a really lockdown. The market in Israel, the market activity is between 15 to 30%. Essential services are obviously operating, critical infrastructures as well. But big companies, most of the people sit at home, and there are some and work remotely. We'll talk about it later. And small businesses, many of them are closed. Some of them are still operating if they have, I think, up to 10 people. And unfortunately, in the last month, we have an additional around 1 million unemployed people, which brings the level of unemployment in Israel to 20% today. The health sector in Israel is still coping, though is preparing for the worst case scenario. As for this morning, we had 30 fatalities, and around 80 people are being respirated as we talk today. The capacity in Israel is up to 2,500, sorry. And in the middle, you see the Israeli culture. Obviously, there is a very important effect to the culture of Israel. I'll just give you one example. We have minorities in Israel, for example, the ultra-Orthodox community, which has a very limited exposure to the regular media, which obviously have an impact on their way to perform. So if we look on the government, I rather say that the government, the focus of the government in the time of the pandemic is a gentle balance between the fight against the virus and the economic battle. But around all of this, there is the need to keep the essential services functioning, from critical infrastructure through nutrition and medicine, all the way to communication. And cybersecurity is part of continuity. And this is where us as INCD is coming into the pictures. If we look on what has happened in the last month or so, so the virus brought with us a very big cyber challenge as the attack surface has increased significantly in zero time. Let's see what's happened only in the last month. So we talked about the workplace. Many people work from home. Everything moved to a teleworking. The organization networks configuration has changed. We consume remote studying, remote education, and determined. People are response to new technological changes very, very fast today. And at the end of the day, if you think about it, we bring to our living room the world. Who thought a month ago that we'll be sitting in our living rooms all around the world and bring work in-house and bring people into our living room and so on. So things have changed very, very, very fast. And that's posed a very big challenge to cybersecurity. We need to adjust, we need to prepare in zero time to the big changes that are happening. So when we talk about the solutions of a national organization, the first step I would say is to establish the understanding between the government that cybersecurity is part of the national effort to combat the virus. The first thing we did is to declare ourselves, I mean, INCD is declared as an essential organization. That means that we are operating in full capacity. The second thing we did, which was very important, since this is the first ever crisis that cybersecurity has a very dominant role, is to declare the cybersecurity industry as a critical sector, meaning we keep their availability to solve problems and to supply services to critical infrastructures and to essential services. This is a very important thing that happened in the last couple of weeks. Except of that, there is a very close cooperation of the National Cyber Directorate with all ministries, not only Ministry of Health, also the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, and so on. And at the end of the day, cybersecurity as being, as I said, first time that this is part of a world pandemic. So cybersecurity today is a crucial part of the pandemic cabinet. We are there, we're giving our advices. We are part of the decision-making process with the decision makers. The first round of activities we did was obviously with the critical infrastructures and the supply chain. We, on regular days, we have a very close cooperation, very close guidance of the critical infrastructures, not to say that obviously in the emergency times. But it's important to talk about the supply chain and about the value chain. So we had to reevaluate the supply chain those days and the value chain. When I talk about the value chain, I'll give you an example. I mean, who thought a month ago or 2 months ago that a toilet paper factory will be a value chain to the market? And obviously today we need to maintain those things are operative. Another example, for example, is civil aviation. So until a month or 2 months ago, the civil aviation was a very important, essential services, which today, obviously, we have to shift our resources and our prioritization to other places. Another example, for example, is a factory that produces respirators. This is obviously today almost a critical infrastructure. So we had to do a reevaluation of the supply chain and the value chain to shift our efforts from a place to place. Another things we did from day zero of the crisis is to supply to the critical infrastructure guidance on almost everything. How do you work remotely? How do you manage? How do you map the risks today? How do you monitor? And so on. Our people work very close with the critical infrastructures in Israel about that. Secondly, is incident monitoring and response. Obviously, the threat landscape has changed, and we need to be very vigilant and very aware of that. So we have a lot of, our teams are on high alert of everything that is related to the COVID-19 pandemic. We're doing a lot of monitoring, awareness campaign with our customers and with the men in the street. Incident response is really prioritized to the pandemic related attacks. And as we're doing here, we think that information sharing with partners is super important to fight. I mean, this is the first time everyone are dealing with this type of events. So this is why it's super important. The crown jewel of a world pandemic, we learn as we go, is obviously the health sector. INCD is working in very close cooperation with the Ministry of Health on remote working and on all other implications. For example, in Israel, we have a Corona application. It's called Hamagen. And this application identified contacts between diagnosed patient and give you alerts if you need to go into quarantine or isolate yourself. This application is based on open source. It's very open to the public. And we had a very close cooperation with the Ministry of Health in order to make sure that it's cyber safe as well. We also enabled secure deployment of platforms for telemedicine, what we call hospital, which are being used today. I think nobody wants to go to a hospital today if he has a little bit of a fever or coughing. Everybody wants to do it through the internet. And as I said, I talked before about the value chain. So I give you another example. We talk about respirators, but for example, labs which are working on a vaccine becoming a very important junction and need to be secured from cybersecurity as well. In general, just to sum it up, I mean, we are all facing a pretty new situation, and we learn as we go. We cooperate and we share information with our partners, and we need to, I'm sure that if we meet in a month's time, this presentation will be a little bit different and our understanding will be much more significant. I want in this point to thank you for listening, and if you have any further questions, I'm happy to take them later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chagai, for the presentation. And now we will begin with the company sessions. The first company to present will be BigID. Take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Nimrod. I'm one of the co-founders of BigID. Let me quickly share my screen. So we are oops. So a little bit about us. We are a US and Israeli company. We were founded in 2016. We are started actually in the US. I run the product and technology group out of Israel. We have about 60 people here in Israel, about 100 and almost 200 around the world. Our headquarters is in New York. We really focused initially, and today, we've identified basically a gap in the market in terms of organizations' ability to manage the data they store about their customers and their employees. Organizations are collecting a lot of information and have been doing that for the past 10 years, mostly in an unlimited way. Being able to store all that data indefinitely in big data repositories and providing analytics on top of it. But very quickly they lost that data. It goes around in the organization, moves on from one application to the other, into the big data repositories, into spreadsheets, into other business applications, into goes to third parties as well. And organizations don't have a good understanding of that data and where it is and what data they store. And this has become really a problem with privacy regulations kicking in. And so there was a gap in the ability of organizations to be able to know and protect their customers' privacy, as well as protect the data and get more value out of that data. And this is really the core of what we've done. We've raised 146 million to date, about 100 of that in the past 6 months. So lucky for us, we are in a good shape in terms of the emerging pandemic. And we serve some of the largest organizations out there. The biggest, actually the biggest retailers, the biggest financial services organizations, manufacturing, web scale companies, that all are very concerned about, first and foremost, protecting their customers' data, but increasingly also leveraging this platform to help them also address security issues with the data, as well as getting more value out of the data. At the core of what the problem is that privacy requires you to handle and rethink how data is being discovered and managed in the organization. One of the requirements around privacy is to know more about data. It's now not enough just to know what type of data you store, but you actually need to know who the data is, who the data belongs to. And so you need to understand, for example, the definition of what is personal is changing. It's not only a password or a social security number or a credit card number. It's anything associated with an individual. It could be your date of birth. It could be your transactions. It could be your running routes. So anything associated with an individual becomes personal and needs to be protected and accounted for. So that requires you to find more contextual personal information, not only highly identifiable like it was in the past and like how security solutions traditionally have treated data. It's also required to find the data across all data sources. It doesn't matter if this data is in a file share, or if you store my data in a big data repository, or in SharePoint, or in Salesforce. You're accountable for that information, and you need a central location to understand and to account for that data. So suddenly, organization needed to look across all of their data sources, not in silos where they have security controls. They want to be able to catalog the data and correlate it by person so that they can delete someone's data if that person wants to be deleted, right? They also want to be able to get more insight about the data, because now that you've gone through the process of mapping the data, you want to be able to get more intelligence and get more value out of it, as well as automate your privacy procedures, your security and data governance. So this whole issue kind of raised a lot of needs around the personal information. So what's different and unique about BigID? First of all, at the core of what BigID does, it really connects to all of your data sources and is able to catalog all the data across all of the data elements, creating a full catalog of all the data, structured data, unstructured data, big data repositories. Look at it as almost like the white pages of your data in your environment. BigID also classifies that data, so you know what type of data is stored in each one of those files or tables or columns. It also catalogs and clusters the data so that you know where you have similar and redundant and duplicate data, and provides that correlation piece that allows you to correlate the data to an individual. And so the discovery is very broad in terms of the type of data it discovers, both PI and PII. We have a very broad coverage of data sources. We apply very sophisticated classification and discovery capabilities and cataloging as well. The product can be deployed on-premise or in the cloud, and it has a security automation capabilities to help you address specific problems around the data. The way BigID is deployed really is at the core is that discovery foundation that allows you to catalog, classify, analyze, and correlate the data across all different data sources. On top of that foundation, we provide specific apps that help you solve specific problems. For example, privacy apps. So that's one of the original reasons for BigID. So we provide applications that now you can search for a specific individual, find their data, and be able to either bring a report to that person, satisfy subject access requests that are required by GDPR and CCPA and other privacy regulation. We also can manage and govern consent so that you make sure that that person provided consent for you to collect that information and you're not violating your own consent requirements, and help you also with data processing and other regulatory requirements around privacy. But you also want to leverage that discovery foundation for data protection. And we help you with that by providing you, for example, with the ability to look at open access. Where do you have open access? So now you know where the crown jewels are located. You can now see if those crown jewels are well protected. If there's access control around it, we can drive labeling for third-party tools to control them, protect the data. If you have a breach, we can tell you whose data was impacted, so you can notify the right people in case of a breach. And we help you calculate the risk around the data so that you can better manage and protect that process. Thirdly, we provide apps to help you gain more value about the data. So you get data quality perspective, data retention management, data stewardship, and data lineage. And those are kind of the applications that we provide that I've mentioned. As I mentioned, we have very broad support across all of those different files and unstructured data. We also provide support and can scan business applications like SAP and Salesforce, both of which, by the way, are investors in BigID. We can do databases, we can do big data repositories, Hadoop and HBase. We can do data in motion and data pipelines like Kafka and Kinesis. We even provide you with APIs that you can embed inside your applications to gain visibility into those applications. And we're built for a modern architecture and large IT organizations. We have support for Kubernetes, for deployment and auto-scaling. We have full RBAC and integration into security tools like CyberArk and for credential management, or Okta for single sign-on and strong authentication. And we're really built for those large organizations. We have a very broad ecosystem of solutions. Of integrations. Like I mentioned, SAP is an investor. We are also on the SAP price list as a solution extension. So you can purchase BigID through SAP and fully supported by SAP. We have security integrations with Microsoft information protection for unstructured data with Immuta and Ionic for encryption and for of data and masking of data. We have integration into data governance tools like Colibra or ASG and Alation to help you manage the data and get more access to it. And this list is increasing every day. That's kind of the high level overview. I can give you a quick glimpse of how BigID looks like. So you can get a little bit of an understanding, and then I'll pass it over to the next company. So this is kind of the dashboard. As you can see, we have full catalog of all the information, both structured and unstructured, whether they contain or not information, whether it's in databases, the full metadata of all the information stored there. We have full classification, very broad set of classifiers, whether it's regular expression based on the data itself, whether it's metadata classifiers on the column names, as well as in the documents themselves, and tell you where you have invoices, where do you have healthcare forms, etc. We provide full clustering of all of the data. So you can find duplicate and similar data across your millions of files. We can break it down to small, a handful, few dozens of similar clusters, and then you can apply a tag to that environment and mark it all as highly sensitive, and this will go out to all of those files for enforcement. And we have full correlation, so you can find user identifiers or any type of attribute, and you can map it out and see where that those elements exist across all of your different data sources. And that's leveraging our correlation capabilities. And we have the apps that I've mentioned, data privacy apps, data protection apps, and other numerous integrations. You can build your own apps on top of our platform. Let me stop here and see if there are any questions or at the end.
Thank you, Nimrod. We actually have a question. The question is, who is handling BigID, service providers like SAP, or the on-premise CERT or SOC in the customer's IT?
So BigID, by and large, is deployed inside as a product inside your environment. It's not a SaaS service today, but we work closely with all of the big four, whether it's Accenture, EY, Deloitte, PwC, and KPMG very closely. We also work with the global SIs, whether it's Wipro or TCS and the others, very strong relationships with them. SAP is obviously can provide, we could be sold on SAP paper if or go through the SAP support and sales process for organizations that it's easier for them to work through an SAP channel.
Thank you, Nimrod. Currently, there are no more questions. So I suggest that we move on to the next company, Guardicore. Take it away. Just a second. I think that Dietmar is on mute. Dietmar?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
yes.
We hear you now. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for giving us the chance here to have a couple of minutes to present Guardicore. My name is Dietmar Kensle. I'm the Regional Sales Director for Guardicore in the DACH region, in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and a couple of countries in Eastern Europe. Now, so working very closely with our headquarters in Tel Aviv, of course. About Guardicore, maybe some of you have heard about us. We are one of these nice security, I don't want to call us a startup, but a company in the number of 200 people. Around the globe, venture capital funded. In the meantime, having a really long list of nice and well-known customers around the globe. So I'm working with the company now since 8 months. Basically all my lifetime I have been in security, working for Imperva as one of the Israeli vendors, which is very famous, I would say. You see here a couple of awards we received in the past. So one of them, which is not on the list, is from Glassdoor. Where Guardicore was ranked as one of the, or actually as the #1 cloud company you can work for, which we are very proud of. So we have a huge growth in the past. The number of employees raised almost 200. yeah, the revenue is going in the same direction. And yeah, so we are very, very positive about the future when it comes to the topic of microsegmentation. Yeah, mentioned microsegmentation as the topic itself. Yeah, this is where we are in. But when we look on the market, yeah, on all the challenges they are coming with the digital transformation, the companies are going through. Yeah, we all know that the assets, they are in the network, yeah, in the infrastructure, they are moving from on-premise somewhere either to the cloud, yeah, public or private cloud. Yeah, they also can be virtualized. Yeah, also some of them are going into the containers in the meantime. Yeah, VMwares, yeah, the Ubuntu's, the Windows, Red Hat server, etc. Yeah, so we are getting a very, very hybrid infrastructure. Yeah, and when we look at the middle, yeah, you also can see it's a virtualized networking diagram. We have many customers, they really have a very flat infrastructure, flat data center itself. Yeah, and this is of course a risky vector for all the companies, for our customers, for the prospects, especially, for example, when it comes to the topic of ransomware. Now, because if a ransomware makes it somehow into the data center, yeah, so it really can spread easily from one asset to the next without any stopping. And of course, this is harming the infrastructure itself and is really delivering a big risk. Companies and customers have started with the topic of segmentation in the past, and it was actually, or it was always not easy to do. Now, but when everything was on premise, it was something the companies were able to handle. Now, but with now really being very much distributed, yeah, and having a very hybrid environment, yeah, this is getting more and more a challenge. Yeah, in Germany we speak about a Wanderbaustelle, yeah, because you try to fix one hole, but at the other hand, you're really opening another one. Now, when you speak about segmentation itself, of course, it can be done based on VLANs and firewalls. Yeah, but whenever you change something in the network asset, yeah, then you have to fix and adjust your policy, which is causing a lot of pain and effort in order to keep up to date. Now, but as said, with all the digital transformation, now the assets are moving. It's almost something which is not possible to do anymore. And this is actually then where Guardicore comes into the game now, because we say to customers, you need to move away from your firewalls and from your VLANs. Yeah, you need to do it different. And this is how we do it, basically, what you can see on the screen. So we are a piece of software now, agent-based, which you can put on the servers, on the assets itself. Now, and these assets and the agents are getting vaccinated with a policy, and this policy basically is the base to put the segments into place. But when we speak about microsegmentation, that's actually the second step for our customers, and when we come into the conversation with them, and when they start to like Guardicore, now, because the first step, and that's a huge benefit for all our customers, is that we bring the visibility into the conversation. Yeah, we can tell our customers and we can map out really all the communication which is happening in the data center. Yeah, so we do not speak about the north-south traffic, which goes to the internet. Now we really keep in the data center. Yeah, we speak about the east-west traffic. Now, and we show all the connections. Yeah, all the assets the companies are having in their infrastructure now based on this policy set. So we are speaking about labeling. Yeah, so what the agent is doing is collecting information about IP address, port. Now, and at the end, we will get this nice map. Yeah, at the beginning, of course, it looks crazy, because it shows all the connections we are having. But that's real life, that's reality. And this is an eye-opener also for all of our customers, because then they start to get an understanding what's happening in the data center. And as I said, that's the first step. And then we move to the segmentation, to the real enforcement. When we put policies in place, now where we give some guidelines and rules, yeah, where the communication can flow. Yeah, and the customers like us, yeah, because the agent itself is very lightweight. Now, so it's not harming any delay on the server itself. So it's very smooth, and yeah, so this is why it's very much accepted. On the other hand, yeah, if the server has the agent on top of it, yeah, so there is no interruption on the network traffic itself. Yeah, so you don't have to reboot your server. The application owners don't have to restart their application. Now, especially important when we have some critical environments, availability is on top of the list, yeah, of the must-haves. Yeah, so there is no, let's say, no pain point at this stage where we get any negative feedback. We are also very much future ready now, because you can integrate us in all the DevOps processes, yeah, in order to roll out the agent itself, yeah, to deploy the policies, yeah, and it's a very nice integration into existing modern environment, because everything is basically API driven. When we now speak about, yeah, work from home, then we have at the moment a very nice use case where we have a lot of conversation with customers. Yeah, it's around Citrix VDI. Now, because what we are basically doing, and this is actually one of our use cases, besides delivering the segmentation, yeah, and the visibility, is really that we can do application ring fencing. And when we look into VDI applications itself, now we have sometimes the situation that all or many employees are going into the network via the same jump host, yeah, so that basically everybody could have access to all the applications. Now, and with Guardicore, it's really possible, yeah, to segment, yeah, the applications based on the user itself. Yeah, so if you have, for example, a user which is coming from HR, they have only access then at the end of the day to the applications, yeah, where they need to work with, yeah, and somebody from the production has a different access. And at the same time, of course, we are providing the security which is needed now for these applications in order to protect them from any attackers. They are trying to get access to the applications or to the data itself. Yeah, and that's basically, yeah, a rough overview about Guardicore. Yeah, so this slide summarizes the use cases where we are getting engaged with customers. Yeah, we have the east-west traffic visibility, which I mentioned. Then we have 3 use cases around the ring fencing, application ring fencing. Then the micro-segmentation is the beauty that we really can go down to the process level now and do some create segments which are based on the processes itself. Now, or environment segmentation, we are seeing in many financial and banking institutions nowadays, now where the European Central Bank really comes in and says you need to separate production from test environment. And then on the right-hand side, of course, we have the compliance, which is also and always important for almost everybody. On top, we have the workloads, which is going in the direction of the Citrix, which we showed, and also, of course, the containers. From now on will be a hot topic for almost everybody, that we say, okay, we need to create the visibility, what's happening in the containers, and with the next release, we also can have the enforcement within the container environment. Yeah, good. That's actually very short, in a couple of minutes, about Guardicore, what we're doing. I quickly summarize. So overall, we are in the area of segmentation, now really having segments in the data center, in the network. Now, but on the first step, we have the visibility part, where we can deliver an overview what is happening in the data center when it comes to traffic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just one quick question from the crowd, and please answer very quickly because we are a bit behind schedule. What type of VDI are supported?
It's the Citrix VDI at the moment, which we saw on the last slide.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we are moving on to the next company, Hunters AI. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can.
we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay, great. So hi, everyone. Can you see the screen also? Can you see the slides?
Yes, yes, we see.
Okay, great. So hi, everyone. My name is Hanan Levin. I'm the VP EMEA for Hunters and AI, and I'm gonna speak today about remote work, cyber protection, obviously. That's the topic, and how Hunters can help you cope with the situation. So while the world is struggling to cope with the coronavirus outbreak, cybercrime experiencing a complete different thing, a business that is on the rise. With the way businesses are running these days, malicious actors have more surface to attack. So we have more remote connections, obviously work from home, more usage of unsecured private PCs. And because all that change happened pretty much overnight, we've seen a rapid shift in IT allowing remote work. So that creates gap in security, limited visibility and control. So all those weaknesses are obviously known to attackers and pose a golden opportunity for attackers to exploit. On the other hand, we see security control decrease. Our ability to protect is decreasing. We can't really man the SOC physically. People are at home. We can't really monitor user activity, what they're doing on their PC, and all the network security we put in place are not as relevant as used to be because the perimeter has fallen. And as we speak, we see malicious actors already taking advantage of the situation and preparing their next kind of wave of cyber operations. So I put a couple of examples here. We see a surge in phishing campaigns around using Corona or COVID-19 coming from WHO, the World Organization, Health Organization, Center for Disease, Netflix, Zoom, and other organizations. We saw nearly 7,000 new domains registered with Corona or COVID, out of which 500 were identified already as malicious. And we also see some new 2,000 new Zoom domains registered just from the beginning of this year. Around 100 were already identified as malicious. So let's take a look at the top 5 threats related to remote work. As mentioned, phishing email is a key threat. Ideally, I mean, normally it's the basic trick in order to get your credential to get your credentials and access sources in the organization, deploy attack tools like processes, Trojan horses, etc. Corporate PC are another, became a threat because they connect to unsafe Wi-Fi networks. They connect and without assuring compliance policies. So if I'm using torrent or peer-to-peer applications on my corporate PCs, the organization can tell. Unauthorized access from my private PC if I try to connect to on-prem or SaaS services. Governance violations by accessing to org services from non-compliant devices. Video conferences has also become a huge target. Not only Zoom, Teams, all of them really. Attackers are actively looking for vulnerabilities, zero-day vulnerabilities, ability to remote code executions and other attack vectors. And last but not least is because remote connections are not really can be secured with traditional defenses like firewalls, IDSs, NAC, endpoints, etc., and VPNs that were flipped pretty much overnight, or RDP web servers without necessarily paying attention to security aspects and privacy necessities. So all those are really not that encouraging news. The good news is that attackers always leave traces. So I've spent the last 20 plus years in the cyber industry working at companies like Checkpoint, Forescout, Elusive Networks, and now Hunters. And I've seen many cyber operations, malicious actors and red team alike. They all have one thing in common. Each and every one of those scratched the log and left some data footprint. So you already have the answer to the big question we are all being asked and we all look for. Is my company breached? You have this answer and it's hidden right inside your data. The only question is whether you have the access to all the relevant data and whether you know what to look for trying to find the needle in a haystack. And that's exactly what Hunters is doing for you in an autonomous fashion. Hunters is an autonomous threat detection machine that connects the dots and exposes the invisible. So Hunters takes your data. We don't create data ourselves. Each organization have enough data collected, enough telemetry, but not being used. So we take data from your endpoint tools, from your email applications, whether they're SaaS or on-prem, from your network, firewall, VPNs, DNS proxy, SIEM, from your cloud, with containers, without, Kubernetes, all the cloud providers, user information, identity information, and even non-trivial information like HR, etc. This is just a partial list, and there is really, we take from 360 degrees of data inside the organization, just so we are able to put them in a central location and run the automated detectors in order to find suspicious pieces of data. Then we can analyze this data, and the machine automatically scores and correlates them to create real attack stories. And those attack stories translates to a breach detection, very clear report, deterministic report, are you attacked or not? Plus we have like hunting experts that provided by our top experts that can give you some extra tips and insights into the attacks, what they're looking for, what they're after. So if we're getting back to this 5 top threats that we talked about before, those are being detected by the Hunter's autonomous machine. I'll take one example, for example, phishing campaigns. We detect them all across their life cycle, from the incoming mail with a newly registered domain that is suspicious, maybe email address using that is similar to the company email, but with a different character, which is another technique. Maybe browsing from the endpoint to a website that looks like it belongs to the company, but it doesn't. We detect that as well. And all the way through detecting the actual logon once the malicious actor got the credentials, detect the logon attempt to the company SaaS from an unmonitored machine. And at the end of the day, we need to assure business continuity, even in these challenging times of the Corona crisis. So as cyber experts, we need to assure security continuity. We need to be able to be proactive in our threat detection. We need to be able to connect those weak signals that are siloed, and we need to do this continuously, automatically, around the clock. And that's on one hand. On the other hand, we need also to take a look at the operational side, and we need to help saving the needs, save the needs for our teams to be at the SOC. So how they operate without being at the SOC. We can really hire or expand teams at this point. So how we do more with existing teams, and how we save time of our team monitoring through endless and noisy logs and events. So traditional approaches to threat detection rely on human beings, and they put focus usually on anomaly detection and user behavior analytics, none of which were designed for this challenging analytics situation of working remotely. Hunters is an innovative cyber technology that identifies and connects threat signals across multiple different data sets, which makes the solution highly effective in detecting breaches, even in our current challenging times. This is, we have leading customers both in Europe and in US. You can see what they're saying. And with that, I want to thank you and invite you to contact me and get a live demo of how Hunters can secure your organization with your remote employees. And with that, I'll open it to questions.
Thank you very much, Hanan. We have a question. What unique incident information I get from Hunters?
Okay, so Hunters The unique information again for hunters is a report, an incident report that is based on your own data, which is highly correlated. So you can see the entire attack flow from someone is sending an email, someone is gaining access to your endpoint, someone is, we see the data on the endpoint, the data on the email, someone is trying to access your service, whether it's on-prem or cloud. So we see that attempt to access. Someone is trying to accelerate data. We detect this and we correlate everything into the same story, which is very unique to hunters. And the other thing that is unique is that you get precious, unprecedented insights from top cyber experts, which can actually tell you, you know, take a look at this. This attack is after your user data, customer data, credit card information, whatever. And this team is based in Korea, China, etc. I can actually pinpoint and let you know how to mitigate.
Thank you. One last question for you, and let's keep it short because we are behind schedule. What is required for hunters deployment?
So that's really the beauty of it. Nothing much required for the deployment because it's we bring all the information into a cloud. It can be our cloud or your cloud. So all really what is needed is your help in connecting to your existing data APIs, and we support all known and common APIs with the leading tools. So just need to point to those tools, we stream the data, and that's pretty much all you need. The next you're gonna get is the incident report, and that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thanks again, Hanan and Hunters AI. We're moving on to the next company, Panorays. Please take it from here. We can't hear you. Can you make sure you are not on mute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Thank you very much. Great to meet you all, and thank you for joining. My name is Demi Ben-Ari. I'm one of the co-founders and the CTO of Panorays. And I'll give you a short introduction of the company and what we're doing and what kind of problems we're trying to solve for our customers. I wanted to also show a short demo of the product, but I think we won't have time, so I think I'll skip that. And I wanted to also present the way that we've helped our customers to also overcome some of the cyber challenges introduced by the whole change and shift of everybody starting to work from home. So about Panorays and about the world of the problem, if we'd go, I would say around 20, even 10 years back, CISOs used to say usually that they are spending a lot of time on cybersecurity products and a lot of efforts and money, and they're a safe silo. Today, things have changed. I think in the past 15 years, for using external services practically for anything. It can be your cloud service provider, your emailing tools, marketing, CRM, ERP, different kinds of interconnected applications to your own infrastructure. But it can be even the things that you don't think about, your law firm, your accounting company. One of the largest banks, one of our customers actually asked us to vet their flower delivery company. And we were like, why does that matter at all? And they said that they have a list of all of their high-ranking employees, all of their most valuable customers with their names, addresses, phone numbers, and birth dates in which you actually assemble passwords out of. So today, practically everybody can be somebody that is a valuable vendor, third party of yours, because they're holding PII, sensitive information of your customers, your prospects, or even your employees. People used to take the P&I Media breach, which basically a terminal company of photos actually hurt all of the large retailers, but you can even take the Target breach. And I think by today, all of the lawsuits that Target got because of that breach is over $500 million. And basically it happened because their AC company, their, for example, their provider got breached. They had credentials to target, and the hackers actually stole target's customer information. So basically, we've mentioned that it's not only your IT vendors, and Hagai also mentioned at the beginning the whole supply chain aspect out of it. And this is one of the most important things, because even you can take an automotive company that told us that one of their most critical suppliers is their screw company. And again, you would say they have no like technical integration to their own infrastructure. So what's the cyber risk there? It's not only cyber risk, it's business continuity and whole the supply chain management. If the screw company gets breached and they don't have screws for their assembly line, and basically they can't make cars. So it starts to be a problem. Everybody in your supply chain, and it's not only your IT vendors. So how we do that and what kind of approach we came into coming to solve this problem was both ends. I would say that we do the outside-in approach, the hacker's point of view, and look at a company in an absolute manner, looking like a hacker would look at it. Doing the whole reconnaissance phase of the hacker, trying to understand the assets of a company, and also IPs, domains, subdomains, correlated technology stack, and doing everything, by the way, automatically without installing anything in any party, not on the side of the evaluator, our customer, and not on the side of the supplier, which is also invited to the platform to collaborate with our customers. So this is, again, we're doing scoring. We basically say how the security posture looks from the outside of the vendor. And this is mainly looking from the outside. But we need to understand also the internal landscape and how they're doing in the context of policies and internal policies. So we're also doing the whole workflow, engaging with the vendors and getting their internal policies with questionnaires that are adapted to the customer's policy. So doing the whole life cycle is one of the most important things to incorporate the vendors in this whole process, having the analysis, the engagement with the vendor, some kind of remediation plan, at least to help them to improve their posture to make business with you, approving or disapproving, and of course, continually monitoring the vendors, and especially the critical ones, and doing that on a specific cadence. And I've also mentioned how we do that in the context of looking from the outside, but how a hacker looks at it looks in different aspects and different subcategories, looking on the application layer, the IT network, and one of the most lucrative vectors of attack vectors of hackers, which are the employees of the company. And giving a holistic 360 overview on a company actually gives you the real security posture of how that vendor or how that company in general acts and looks from the outside to hackers. Working from home challenges. So we spoke about the supply chain, and I think Hagai had mentioned that part of the supply chain in general, it's not only about data privacy security, it's also about business continuity. What happens right now when everybody shifted to working from home, and I need them to provide their service as a supplier of mine with some kind of SLA. Can they actually provide that? Are they ready, or are they protected enough in the context of also data privacy and security not to be breached? Because right now nobody is talking to each other and nobody is seeing each other face to face. So we've actually created some kind of adjustment to the platform itself and providing working from home assessment ability with the flow that we have currently in place with the specific questionnaire. You can also download that from our website. It's publicly available. And we got great feedback also from lots of customers from different kinds of industries, from low tech, high tech companies, banks. It can be anybody that has the problem of third-party security that is using the platform that wanted to understand at least the landscape of what's going on right now with all of my supply chain. And I want to do that instantly, and I don't want to do a lot of hustle or like groundwork of starting to call people and trying to understand things via emails. Lots of things in the context of recognition were recognized also in Gartner, Forrester, SC Magazine, lots of places that we were mentioned. But mainly, I think the focus here is the feedback that I'm getting from customers of using the platform, because most times it's a one-man show running the whole security landscape. Maybe he has a team or she has a team, and they're trying to do a lot of things. And without automation and without having some kind of tool that provides you a flow of actually doing these things in a frictionless manner with engagement and all of these things, you can't actually leverage those. So I'm really glad that I'm getting the feedback from customers that we're hitting the targets and shortening the life cycle of engaging with vendors, and even like doing the whole evaluation process on a timely manner. And we've shortened that whole scale from, I think it can take even the larger amount of weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, even it can take several months to evaluate vendors. And we've shortened that whole cycle to, in average, 8 days. And this is amazing to see even the growth of the company itself, that we grew in a 400% since last year, and we keep on plan doing that this year. Among reference customers that I can actually mention are from banks like Clearbank, large insurance companies. We work also in Japan, the United States, and Europe. Basically, we don't have a specific vertical because everybody has the problem of third-party security, and we adjust the platform according to the flow and the business flow, I would say, that the company has. This is me. Any questions from the audience?
Thank you very much, Demi. We have time for just one question, so there it is. How are your customers leveraging Panorize when the world is transitioning to remote work?
Okay, so thanks. I mentioned it in the slide deck itself that we've adjusted the platform to actually handle some of the readiness of the vendors. I actually got a message right now from a CISO of an oil and gas company that thanked me for the ability that he could have introduced right now to the platform immediately in the course of a day. And he got a full transparent view of readiness of all of his supply chain globally, because it's, again, a global company, and they're based in Europe and dispersed in India and the United States, etc. So with a click of a button in a day, basically he was able to measure the readiness of all of his supply chain through the platform. But also saying that, we kind of provide assistance to our customers with our customer success team, and also some of our cybersecurity experts to provide assistance to remediate some of these problems. Because again, right now you have a vendor that doesn't comply to your policy. What can you do right now with that? Because we provided the tools to assess it, and you need to do something with that. So even switching a vendor or some kind of a recommendation to the remediation plan of the connection with a vendor, this is one of the most helpful things that I've seen to our customers, helping leverage their abilities through the platform. So I see a really high engagement also of need of, especially right now, evaluating the vendors, because a lot of companies have started working, for example, with Zoom, with different kinds of services that they weren't used to, and they need quick evaluation. So the platform actually provides them to do that thing in days, instead of starting to onboard new vendors and doing things and prolonging the process of doing business. I hope it answers.
Thank you very much, Demi. And
welcome.
Thank you, Panorize.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Silverfort, are you ready?
I am ready, yes. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Take it away.
Excellent. Can you see my screen as well?
Yes.
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 Excellent. So hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today. And let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Dries, based in Europe and working for Silverfort. Silverfort is a next generation strong authentication company. We help you secure remote access, and we help you do that everywhere. We're also doing that without the use of any agents or proxies, and I'll explain a little bit more about how that is done. If we look at the current situation, well, recent events obviously force us all to change our way of working, and most people are now working remotely. Some are using corporate computers to do that, others are using their own devices to do that. What we also see that most organizations nowadays have a VPN, and on top of that VPN, they have a multi-factor authentication that helps them validate the identity of their users before they actually get on the network using the VPN. That is kind of the current modus operandi of most organizations out there. And the problem is that it's not exactly enough. It's a very traditional approach of how to handle remote access. And we see that it's a bit an approach of the past. In the past, what we had is a principle that was very much based on network perimeter security. We kind of built huge walls around our networks and had a VPN as the single entry point, or maybe a VPN and a Citrix as the single entry point to the network to become a trusted member once connected. So people would actually have to connect over the VPN remotely, which is what most of us are doing nowadays, authenticate strongly at the front door. And the moment they would authenticate strongly there, they would be given a certain level of trust, which would allow them to walk around the network, use the multitude of services that we're based on without any real management, control, monitoring, or demands of extra authentications. Now, again, this used to work well in the past, but if we're looking at what digital transformation is causing, but we're looking at all the transitions that companies are going through nowadays, most organizations are actually looking at the right hand of the screen. Today's networks are no longer based on single network perimeters. Actually, well, not today, but let's say under normal circumstances, I could just use Starbucks as my corporate LAN. I could go to Starbucks, connect on the Wi-Fi, connect to my box or my Dropbox file share, and at no given time, really use the corporate LAN, as most of us are working remotely anyway nowadays as well. So the reality of today is that we've kind of made small holes in that perimeter that we used to build and have set up federations to the cloud. We allow more remote workers to come into the network. We have a bring your own device policy, and we see a lot of shadow IT being increased. That is today's network. That is the reality we're all facing. And the technology of the past, multi-factor on top of the VPN, is no longer going to cope. So once a user has access, do we really know what that user is accessing on the inside? Or do we only know that he's coming through that front door? With perimeters being dissolving, we need to secure any access from any device to from any endpoint to any device, but we don't need to do that only from the outside, but also on the inside. We need a unified way to monitor, verify, and control any access that happens from the outside, but definitely also on the inside. And we can't really rely on proxy or agent-based solutions, because they, although also attempting to get us to that zero trust situation, are limited and very difficult to roll out. Imagine having to deploy an agent on each device on the network. So how can we really secure access everywhere without making any modification to our network? That is what Silverfort is all about. We help you strengthen your authentication, we help you strengthen your monitoring, but we require no agent or no proxy to do that. The use cases are obviously clear. The standard use case for strong authentication has always been that remote access. But now we have to look beyond the VPN. And what sits beyond the VPN is a lot of what we used to call unpredictable. Systems that don't necessarily support MFA or multi-factor authentication, but do need strengthening of authentication today. We help you enable cloud migrations. We help you bring your privilege management under control. We help you look at human accounts and service accounts alike, list them all, give them all risk scores, and monitor what they are accessing. We help you implement and adopt a full zero trust framework without the requirement of any change to the network. No agents, no proxies, no APIs or SDKs that you need to call. In a nutshell, that's really what Silverfort is about. Strengthening your authentication, not only at the front door, but throughout the entire network, and do that together with our partners. We have very strong partnerships with the likes of Microsoft, but also players in the authentication space, the likes of Okta, RSA, Ping, Yubico, Cisco Duo. We have strong partnerships with players in the firewall space, the likes of Palo Alto, Checkpoint, and more. I'll keep it short because I know we were overrunning a little bit, but I'll definitely open it for any questions right now. Would there be any questions?
No questions. So thank you very much, Dries, for the presentation.
Thank you.
And I'm going to give a couple of minutes for the questions that were raised from the audience during the session. So, and if the audience has any additional questions, now is the time to ask them. So we have a question for Chagai. Chagai, are you still with us?
Of course I am, yes, please.
Okay, so there's a question. Which role in incident monitoring is the Cybersecurity Center in Be'er Sheva playing?
Well, the Cybersecurity Center in Be'er Sheva is part of Israel National Cyber Directorate. The national CERT sits in Be'er Sheva. And they are, I mean, in Be'er Sheva, our center has a emergency number. It's called 119, the other way from 911. This is the emergency number for everyone in Israel to call and to report about incidents. And over there, we have, I would say, the center of handling all incidents which are coming into our system for all resources. And it's part of what we are doing. They are like the emergency room. They are receiving information about the incidents, starting to handle the incidents. And most of the incidents, 95% or more, are being handled over there. And the rest of the incidents, which maybe has to go through other layers of treatment, are going out of the center in Be'er Sheva to other centers of our organization.
Thank you. Another question that was raised is for Guardicore. Is Guardicore part of the SOC?
Yes, Guardicore is part of a SOC. Yeah, so basically what the events Guardicore is seeing and getting can be provided to the SOC via syslog, where basically to the CM of a SOC.
Thank you. Next question is for hunters. How long is the learning time needed by hunters to provide results?
Yeah, so this is Hanan again from Hunters. The lead time to create results is pretty short. From the minute we ingest all relevant data sets, it takes a couple of days to a week, around a week, to get ready and to start seeing results.
Wonderful. And another one for you. How can we get a demo?
Very easy to get the demo. I don't know if you guys get the slides, but if not, my email is Hanan, Hanan, @hunters.ai. So you can email me and we'll schedule a demo. Or you can go to our website and register and we'll get back to you. So hunters.ai.
And we have one last question for all the vendors, all the presenting companies. So we'll take them one by one. How can you address the problem of your product's introduction for a new client in the current situation with travel bans and very limited possibilities to on-site consulting? So first we'll go BigID.
Not sure he's here.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it left.
Okay, so Guardicore.
Nimrod's still here.
Oh, hi, Nimrod. So the question is to you.
Hi. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
How can you address the problem of your product's introduction for a new client in the current situation with travel bans and very limited possibilities for on-site consulting?
Yeah, well, I would say that we have always been very very global. So it was in all of our first deals and large deals were done remotely, and so from that perspective, the inside sales organization works in a very similar way, and we continue to manage remotely those interactions. And now there is the customers are also remote. So there is really no expectation for face-to-face meeting right now. And so effectively, we are not seeing any impact. We are actually seeing an increase in the productivity and efficiency of a lot of those meetings because it's easier to get on people's calendars. It's less travel time that is wasted on flying and traveling. And people are generally keeping to the schedule, right? And are more efficient about their time.
Thank you. Guardicore?
Yeah, so very similar, yeah, to what we heard. Yeah, so the productivity increased. Yeah, so especially my person or me, I'm used to work from home, and I'm very much used to do these web access and the Zoom sessions with customers, especially at the beginning. Yeah, so we always have the first PowerPoints and demos over the web. So no change for us, and yeah, as I said, increased productivity and more time to do things.
Just to clarify, the person who asked the question is not asking about sales, it's asking about implementation. So take that into
implementation. Yeah, so yeah, for the implementation, yeah, we also have a cloud environment, yeah, which we can use, and it really depends if customer wants to have it on site, yeah, on premise or in the cloud. Yeah, of course, when it needs to be on site, then there is no way that we cannot go there.
Thank you. Hunters AI?
Yes, so with Hunters, it's very easy because we're a cloud-based service. So all our operation was built to be operated remotely even before Corona. The interaction, yes, we can meet on sites. We like to meet on sites, but it's definitely not a necessity. So we are completely ready for remote work and remote implementation as we're being a cloud-based service.
Thank you. Panorays?
I would say the same. We're a SaaS-based solution. We don't need to install any agent in any party. The platform runs automatically, and even the whole process of support, implementation, I would say, and customization according to the policy of the customer happens remotely a lot of times. So we don't have that problem. Most of, like Hanan had mentioned, most of our customers are also working in remote and nobody is on-prem. So it's much easier when everybody are talking in remote and actually starting the onboarding. And again, our customer success team globally is really fit to that also. So there is no real problem. We didn't see any slow there. Actually, things got much more efficient.
Thank you. Silverfort?
Thank you. So Silverfort in EMEA is a very channel-centric organization. We work with local partners, and the partners are obviously certified on the solution and help you in your local language, in your local country. We obviously support them remotely and if needed on-premise, but right now remotely. But a lot is being done and handled locally.
Thank you very much. And just to wrap the session, thank you again, everybody, for coming, for taking your time and participating. And just a closing word, Israel operates 44 economic missions globally. These missions are non-for-profit organizations that are aimed to bringing together Israeli companies and global partners. Please feel free to reach out to us from the country that you are based in to explore the thousands of Israeli startups and companies offering innovative solutions. And in addition, feel free to visit our global website. Thank you again, everybody, for coming, the presenting companies, Hagai. Have a lovely day and stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Keep safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.